This movie is the third installment in the Fantastic Beasts series, which follows the continuing adventures of Newt Scamander. First of all, there's nothing fantastic about this movie. It's absolutely pointless, with painfully dull story and bland characters. This latest entry abandons any plot points of interest from the previous two chapters, focusing instead on shocking reveals that are anything but. Practically everything is just a plot point in this movie. The movie has reduced almost its entire cast to wandering storytelling devices. The filmmakers seem utterly uninterested in building out the rest of the political world as well, except to signal that wizards embrace multiculturalism in the broadest of terms. The film begins sluggishly with a half hour of reintroductions to the likes of Dumbledore, Newt, and Credence Barebone. None of them are more interesting than they've been before, and remain unlovable additions to a series that was always short on charm. Newt Scamander's screen time dramatically reduced and his impact on the story relegated primarily to the rescue of a single solitary animal. He's always around, but he has less to do with events than ever. He no longer even drives the story forward. Tina Goldstein also has little screen time, while side characters like Queenie Goldstein and newcomer Lily Hicks mostly just being around, casting spells when the story requires. It's hard to care much about any of the many characters in this movie because hardly any of them have a meaningful storyline or character arc of their own. They are rather to assist in the slow forward crawl of a plot whose pieces can be reassembled in practically any combination without the big picture really changing. The storytelling feels haphazard as the film figures out what to do with the Credence storyline, with 2 films still to go. The familial connection between Dumbledore and Credence is clarified a little more here, but there is no great revelatory moment and no sense of emotional catharsis. Not a single character feels integral to this ensemble fantasy film. To make it worse, the movie doesn't even try to justify including any of them in the first place. In one of the story promise, the heroes soon realize they're up against a villain who can predict their every move. Dumbledore then orders his allies to behave incoherently from scene to scene, supposedly to stop the villain predicting what they're going to do next. So they have to be especially unpredictable when they take action against him in ways that may not always make sense. However, neither this approach nor the fact that the villain now has the power of foresight ever come up again. The villain's ability is only demonstrated through lopsided visual effects that appear to have been awkwardly shoved into Matt Mikkelsen scenes without much prior planning. The result is that for at least an hour, it's impossible to work out why anything is happening, or how one scene links to the next, or what any of the characters are trying to achieve. Nothing is really clear in the moment, setting the stage for a film defined by a vague character objectives on all sides and at every turn. The very act of following the story quickly becomes a passive affair. There's no actual objective, there are only self-contained set pieces in between, which the characters regroup before splitting up again. With only a handful of characters registering as fully formed, the plot unspools slowly, relying more on these set pieces than on human beings. Many of the subplots of this movie fall flat and go nowhere. The scattered story pieces rarely add up, and they only serve to keep the characters occupied until the election draws near. Despite its focus on politics, it's completely apolitical, with a plot that centers on 3 potential wizard leaders without actually framing or expressing any of their beliefs, including those of its central villain. In the end, this is resulting in an entirely painstaking, politically driven movie with no sense of momentum, even less sense of urgency, and a plot that's as bare as it is filled with plot holes. The underlying magic is gone entirely, lost in the service of a nothing plot and unlikable and wearisome characters that fail to pass as entertainment. Overall, we do not recommend this movie at all.